I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
How do you recognize if your child has an allergy to a food or drink? One day when my kids were small, I was making a fruit salad. This was one of my choices for dessert. And I was chopping up kiwi. And Lorelai said, "Oh, I don't like kiwi because it makes my tongue and the roof of my mouth itch." I was like, "Lorelai, how long has that happened?" And I recognized immediately that that itching was an allergic reaction. Needless to say, I stopped putting kiwi in any type of food preparation I made for my kids. But then another time, Lavinia somehow had eaten too many pineapples. I think she was a teenager or maybe in her early 20s when this happened. And suddenly she broke out, meaning that she was having an allergic reaction to pineapple. So there you go. I'm nixing the pineapple. And I have a nephew who's allergic to nuts. I stopped putting nuts in the fudge gifts that I sent at Christmas. So, how do you know when your kid is allergic? One of the things they tell you when your child is young and by 6 months, and it shouldn't be before 6 months, that you give your baby solid foods because feeding them solids too soon, like before 6 months, will cause them to have allergies. And you need to be on the lookout for little signs of things, different kinds of rashes or fevers that will erupt after a certain food, which you won't know that if you're giving them all kinds of stuff all at once. You can't isolate it. So, sisters, what are your thoughts on preventing allergies and recognizing an allergy in your child?
Mm. Well, I didn't realize that allergies could be as dangerous as they can. I don't know if you ever seen that little talking Quora, where they have different subjects.
Yeah.
So somebody brought up the issue that they were upset with their school and they had requested that the school stop serving peanut butter and jelly sandwiches because their child had an allergic reaction, and they hadn't really made a big deal out of it. They were upset that the school would not change its menu. And so I wrote a response saying, get over it. Okay, just bring your child something else and be done with it. Don't expect everybody else to adjust their diet because of your child. And man, I got some response like, "You don't understand, people could die from this." And
Yeah.
So I guess you can just be in the vicinity of something that you have an allergic reaction to, and it can affect you. And I also didn't know that sometimes allergic reactions can affect your respiratory system. You can have shortness of breath, go into like an asthmatic episode. I mean, all kind of things. So some allergic reactions are so severe they could be life-threatening. I didn't know that, and so I guess I learned something from people's extreme intensity of their response to my just kind of blowing it off like, "Oh, get over it,"
Well, this is the thing. We do have to be sensitive to that. I also have a nephew who is highly allergic to nuts and fish. And it's funny because he it's like he became my nephew when I married my husband, which means he's mine. And his wife now is my niece. But I remember starting to worry because we used to get and we always had Thanksgiving over at their house, and I would bring something. And once I realized, I was told, well, he has, and I'm not going to call his name. I'm going to try not to say his name. But once I realized that he had this severe reaction, and it's not just, oh, they even have just an itchy. They can actually go into anaphylactic shock and they could die.
Yeah.
So that's why people reacted as strongly, Naima, as they did, because they were
Yeah.
saying, like, but anyway, let me go back to that. But what I started doing, because we used to buy these cakes for to bring for dessert for Thanksgiving, and he could not have it because they're all made in the same factory as things that have nuts. So I started to make something just for him that I
Yeah.
knew didn't have any nuts in it, and it was chocolate pie. And
Mm.
it has become like the thing. Oh, everybody likes the chocolate pie. It's the easiest pie in the world. It's chocolate pudding pie. It's the easiest thing in the world. But I always think of it as, and the reason why I do that, that's my go-to. But that's because I knew that was safe for him. And I didn't want him to have to miss out on dessert because we didn't know where the cheesecake was made, or we didn't know where the, really, really rich chocolate mousse cake was made. All these things that we could bring, and then there was something but it was all stuff he had to just look at. And he was very good about it.
Oh, yeah.
He learned at an early age that this was very important. And he learned how to go to a restaurant and ask, well, do they make the fries in the same oil that they make the fish? Things like that. So kids have to learn, but parents advocate for themselves. And let me just quickly go on. When Sarah was in school, and they used to have this problem when they had the cafeteria, and then, because a lot of peanut allergies are very, very common
Yeah,
now.
they're very common. Now they
And
have
and
to
and they
put some,
and
yes,
they even tried to like reintroduce peanuts little by little in places. Sometimes it works, and sometimes people go into anaphylactic shock. So
ooh.
it just
Now, what is
depends.
anaphylactic shock for those who don't know what that is?
You stop breathing.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Anaphylactic,
You stop
it's
breathing.
not just, it's just not a little bit of um of discomfort.
Mhm.
So you have to realize is that your body is going into this severe reaction, this severe food allergy. And
Mhm.
they used to discuss at Sarah's school at the time about having separate tables for kids who were allergic. And then people were
Mm.
upset because then kids would feel, isolated.
Segregated.
But yeah, maybe they could have a friend that wasn't allergic that could sit with them. And this went back and forth, and it
No.
was more or less, just don't bring peanuts. And all the time
Yeah,
Yeah.
that we've
yeah.
had, and Sarah's had 15 years of dance from the, not even counting after she graduated high school, but she had 15 years of dance. And they were always telling us, when you bring different treats or stuff, make sure that there are no nuts in it, because that's so common. You had to be very careful. Fruit, like, strangely enough, some kids have fruit allergies. I have a friend whose kids have all she's got 3
Like the
kids,
kiwi, yeah.
and they all have all different fruit allergies, and they have all different food allergies. So I can't really do a potluck for her because there's so many things that she has to keep in touch with. So I think the one thing that we do have to realize is that allergies um are very common. Like Barbara said,
Mhm.
that rice cereal is a reason why you're giving them only rice cereal at 6 months, is so that as you introduce foods, you can wait for those reactions. Just like when they go for their 4 month or whatever the vaccinations, you have to try to introduce something like, I think maybe it's later that they give them, because at one point you have to introduce eggs to their diet to
Yeah.
see if
Mhm.
they're going to have a reaction to that. See, all of our kids are grown, so we may have forgotten about some of that. But remember, when you had went for I know they have the big ones at 4 months, but then I think it's at 4 years, or there's another one that they have where they have eggs in that vaccine. So you have to introduce your child to eggs so that you will know whether or not they can take that vaccine.
And
Mhm.
it's the egg whites that are dangerous to a baby. You only give
Wow.
them the yellow yolk
Most
when
people don't even
they're
know
under
that.
12 months. And just another aside that I learned, orange juice is an antidote to someone who has had an allergic reaction to nuts.
Oh, I
Mm.
didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Wow.
I learned
Assuming
that
that they
from
do
a
not have an
mom when my
EpiPen.
kids were little, and she told me that.
Well,
Mm.
now a lot of times because it can be very severe and come on very strongly, and it's a and they that's why they do EpiPens, and you have to like
Yeah.
learn how to stick yourself. So,
Ooh.
so that's one of the things, but you have to kind of recognize, like you said, Barbara, if your kids are having, and it can be medicine too, but when your kids have like a shot, a system, usually they'll break out in a rash, something, and it'll come on very quickly. I know that I never had a food allergy, but I do have allergies to certain medications. And I
Mhm.
never knew that until the first time I had it. And I got up and I looked in the mirror and I could actually see the hives coming out. And I says, "Oh,"
Ooh.
and I walked back to the hospital and she says, "Oh yeah, you have an allergic to, I think it was codeine."
Codeine.
So,
Mm.
and I didn't know what I says, "I don't know what this is." I remember I was living in California and I called mama because I didn't know who else do you call,
Yeah.
Who you gonna
when you
call?
don't know, you always call your mama. I don't care how old you are. So,
Mm.
so that's the thing you have to kind of like really pay attention. But it's funny that, if Lorelai probably said that as an aside, and it
Yeah.
probably had been
Never
going on
thought.
for a long time and didn't even, oh, like, I just don't like it. And
Yeah.
if she had just said, "Oh, I don't like it," you wouldn't have paid any attention to it.
Exactly.
Right. But then the
So
itching.
listen to what they don't say, and also out in including what they do say, but sometimes what they don't say.
Yeah, and wide on the and you had to look for things like swollen lips and stuff. I mean, because
Or just a stomach ache or,
stomach ache,
diarrhea or something
yeah,
afterwards, and they always seem to get sick after something. A lot of kids, like I developed lactose intolerance in my 20s. A lot of children have lactose intolerance and you don't know, their stomach always kind of, oh, that kind of tears my stomach up. Well, that's
mm,
kind of, that's your body's telling you
don't
that
eat it.
you don't like things. And
Right.
we talk about people being, with celiac disease, having being, everything being gluten free. And some people kind of say that that's like you said, Naeem, it's kind of like, oh, just get over yourselves, eat some bread. But for some people, that is it's very painful. So you
Yeah.
also have to remember that.
Well, I tell you, I had an allergic reaction episode that was very dangerous because I developed I guess, shellfish allergy um, later in life, and I didn't know it until I was at this dinner, uh, uh, and they served, I think was it clam chowder, and I ate some, and then first my throat started itching, and my lips started swelling, and it felt like my throat was closing up,
Hmm.
and people at the table were saying, "Oh, you need some Benadryl. You're allergic."
That
And
is
you saw that movie,
That
Will
scene
Smith?
from Hitch.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I looked like that.
I never saw that movie.
I looked like Will Smith and Hitch.
It's
My throat
really
was swollen
funny.
all up, just
But yeah,
horrifying. And so I ran to a local Walgreens and got some Benadryl, and that helped. But that's the first time that had ever happened to me that severe. And then some years later, and you all might remember this, I ended up in the hospital. We'd gone out to get some chicken, I guess Harold's chicken or whatever. But I got to order fries, but I think they fried it in the shrimp grease.
Right, right.
And I ate the fries and my throat closed up, my chest closed up. It wouldn't go down through my digestive system. And I broke out in a fever. I was bedridden for like 2 days. And I finally had to be rushed by ambulance to the hospital. And
I don't remember that.
they were talking about doing some kind of operation to cut out part of my digestive tract. I'm like, no, we ain't doing that. So
Oh, I
eventually,
remember that. Oh, I remember that, but I
it
didn't
was
think
right
that was
around the Maple Park reunion.
right,
Yeah.
right. And that's
and
well,
people thought that the ambulance was there for Mama.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
okay, maybe
yeah.
that was the one I didn't go to then. I remember
I
you
think you
having to
were
go to
there.
the hospital because of a blockage, but you had told me about it, but I wasn't
Yeah,
there. But that's the thing is that sometimes we just kind of ignore those and say, well, that's kind of funny. And you really have to really be
yeah.
aware of things. And like I said, like my nephew learned very early to ask when he went to a restaurant, how do you make this? How do you make that? And sometimes, and restaurants had to be better about that now, because
Yeah.
before they would just lie. Oh yeah, we do that separately.
Well,
And then of course, we've had, children who've been given something at school and they tell them that they're allergic, and the teacher
and
goes on and
ignore it.
to tragic results. So now you can't even go into a Dunkin' Donuts or a Starbucks or any place, any fast food place that does not say on the menu, let the server know if anyone in your party has an allergy,
Right.
because it's very common now, and people can't take the chance of somebody dying on their watch because they were too lazy to go and find out if the fries were also fried in the fish oil.
Right. Well,
And also these places will list what the ingredients are
Yes.
in the substance that's being served. You will get things sometimes that will have a warning that says this item was also prepared in a place that has tree nuts. So you
Yes.
have that kind of warning on labeling on some things. But I remember a story of a person who was telling about how God had looked out for them. They were in the audience at a banquet, and the person who was speaking got up. They were talking about the dinner and the menu, and then she said, the strangest thing, I was told, this was like a voice from God that said to her, announce what is in the meal. And she had never done that before, but she said what was in the meal. It was some kind of fish that the way it was prepared, the things that were the ingredients that were used to prepare it, someone at the banquet in the audience was allergic to that and immediately got up and went to the hospital because they had started eating it. And it was the weirdest. I'm trying to remember the whole story, but I remember that part of it since we're talking about allergies. And the thing was, the person who was the speaker said the Lord told them to say what was in the meal. That was not on his agenda to speak about, but it saved that other person's life who was at the banquet, who was allergic to this thing. And
they probably was just started feeling itching or something and didn't think about it until they heard the ingredients and they realized, oh, this is an allergic
that's
reaction.
what it is.
Yeah. Now a group of us took out a friend of mine for her birthday, and one of our party has severe allergies, and so she kept asking the waitress, what was in various items on the menu, and the waitress was like, well, I don't know. And so she was like, well, ask the cook, and so she was like, well, and the cooks were like, well, yeah, might have this, might have that. So I mean, we had ordered this whole meal, and it turned out my friend who had the allergies had to put all of her stuff back. She couldn't eat anything. I felt really bad because she had to just kind of sit there with an empty plate, because everything on the menu, she was allergic to something in the ingredients. And at first I was a little agitated, but then I realized she's had severe allergic reactions before, and for her it's life-threatening. So,
and it's not like you can just kind of play it off to, so not to make anybody else feel uncomfortable. We're talking about other people's lives.
So sometimes people are annoyed with you if you are persistent in wanting to know exactly what is in the meal. But if you're advocating for your child, you do not take chances like that. When you order something, you want to know what's in it, how it was prepared, and if substitutions can be made when you are ordering stuff like that.
Yeah. Because I think everything was fried in peanut oil or something. It was some kind of way she couldn't eat anything on the menu.
Right.
And, because she kept being insistent. It's like she was getting agitated because nobody knew. None of the servers knew what was in it. And, and then they asked the chefs, and they were kind of like lackadaisical. I don't know. And then when she finally found out everything was cooked in peanut oil, it's like, I can't eat anything on the menu.
Right.
So,
right.
it was kind of,
and because everything is out as also contaminated in the kitchen.
Yeah. So that means everything, everything would have been affected by it. So I mean,
how do you prevent allergies, or how do you prevent your child from being subjected to allergies?
Well,
And
What you're
this is something
saying,
you would think about when you are scheduling play dates. They're going to be at someone else's house. What are the other people they're eating?
well, that's I think that's anything. Anytime your child has a like a specific diet, because Zakia had friends that when they came to visit, they would bring their own food because they were vegan. Their family was vegan,
right,
so
right.
they just brought their own food, and I couldn't feel offended because I understood, and some people understand and some don't. Some get agitated, like, oh, you and your allergies, and they don't realize how serious it is. But weren't you saying something about you can avoid children developing allergies if you don't feed them solid food too early
You could avoid it, but I'll tell you, you could also have to be careful of what you're eating too
while you're
when you're
pregnant?
pregnant and while you're nursing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Because sometimes that affect, and it's funny how things affect your child's diet. Like I, like every most other women in the world, like chocolate. My daughter does not. And
ooh,
I remember when I was pregnant with her and I had a
mhm,
chocolate bar and she sent it back, just like somebody sending it back,
ooh.
to the kitchen, like,
You said that-
she sent that back, and she's never, and she, I says, "Oh, okay, I guess you don't like chocolate." And she'll eat it, but it's like not her biggest thing, even to
wow,
this day. So,
I didn't know.
so you have to like really start early. But I mean, if you're listening to us and your kids are already, older, there's no point you trying to go back in time now. But what you
Yeah.
can do when they're little, just be careful. I mean, we like a lot of seasonings. But
Mhm.
sometimes we're people, we season our food, but baby food is bland for a reason. You
Shouldn't
know,
have hot sauce in it.
yeah. Don't add hot sauce. Don't add salt. Don't add a lot of things that you might like, because you're not seasoning it for you. You're seasoning it for them, or
Mhm.
or vice versa. Actually, you're seasoning it because you think this tastes good, and they may not taste good for them, and it may
Trigger.
it may hurt them because their
Mhm.
systems are just developing. So
Mhm.
remember, I mean, they can have fresh fruit, and really just kind of watch what their reactions are. And if they seem to like you said, Barbara, if they break out in a rash or their tongue is itchy, where they're old enough to say, "Well, that kind of makes my tongue itchy," pay attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention and really let other people know, well, they can't have this. Like, a lot of times, like you said, Naima, people get annoyed when you go to their house and you say, well, I can't have peanut butter and jelly. And one of my friends is vegan and she raised her daughter vegan, and she was upset because, when they ban peanut butter, a lot of places they ban peanut butter in schools because there's so many allergies to that. And she
Yeah.
was upset because she says, well, that's our staple.
Yeah.
Well,
More than
yeah, but
understandable.
these people want their children to live to come home.
Right, right. And then that's the thing when you don't understand how important it is for people who are allergic to something like that. You know, I mean, I understand when you are vegan and very much into that diet, but it's not a life and death decision the way an
Right,
allergy
right.
is.
It's a
Yeah,
food choice.
yeah.
When push comes to shove, it's, vegetarian, veganism, omnivorism, like I am. Some of us will eat just about anything as long as it's moving slow enough. So, so but whatever it is a food choice, and you can't decide that your food choice supersedes someone else's right to breathe and live. So,
Yeah,
you know,
right, the
and if
life.
if you have to take your food, to somebody else's house, explain to them, well, I'm highly allergic. I can't have this, and I didn't want to upset everyone else. I don't want you to cook
Right.
just for me.
Just for
So
me,
that's
right.
the other thing. But watch what your kids are eating as they're developing their palate, as they're developing their vegetables and fruit and meats, if you eat meat. You know,
And I'd like to speak to the fact that I know a lot of times in our community, and I know is when my children were babies growing up, there was this thing where moms would put rice cereal in the milk bottle because
yes.
they said, oh, this is going to help the child sleep better.
Mhm.
That is not a healthy thing to do. Do not start your child by putting food in their baby bottle, by putting solids in their baby bottles. They should be drinking either breast milk, or if you're preparing formula for your child or some other type of drinkable item that is specifically made for infants, you don't want to introduce solids, number one, before 6 months. And you don't want to put solid food in their bottle and have them drinking their food. They're not supposed to be having smoothies. They're
Yes.
supposed to be learning later how to
Because
eat
they need to
food
learn
and-
how to swallow that kind of stuff, and you can choke
Yes.
the baby. And you know, and also it's just, you know, that's a way of introducing allergies right into their formula or their breast milk. Because I had a friend who was doing the same thing, and I wanted to say something, but you know, like all new moms, you know, her daughter was like a month younger. I said, you should really talk to your pediatrician about that. And after we met, after she talked to her pediatrician says, stop putting rice cereal in her formula.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you
So
know, a
be
lot of
careful when
times,
you give advice too, because sometimes people don't want to take it.
yeah.
And you have to explain, well, it's really probably, maybe you should talk to your pediatrician about that. I heard that's not a good thing.
Yeah, because people have been doing it, you know, a long time for generations. They
Mhm.
don't realize that it's not something they should do. So yeah, you could definitely. Sometimes you just have to insist, especially if you're going to have people babysit your infant child. You know, you want to make sure
You bring everything that you need
you
with
bring your own
yeah,
stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
bring your own bottle.
yeah. Oh, that's how that started.
Well, we gotta go. But we want you to be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, Three Black Moms. Until next time, I'm Naima.
I'm Cheryl.
I'm Barbara. We're 3 Black moms. Thanks for watching. Bye. Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're 3 Black Moms.